If I'd ignored the doorbell at 11:58 p.m., I honestly think my life would look completely different right now. I was in pajama shorts and one of those big shirts with paint on the sleeves, standing over a pot of boxed tomato soup I'd just decided was dinner. My apartment was doing that cozy, quiet thing it does, dishwasher humming, rain pecking the windows, the plant light casting a soft purple glow on the dying basil I keep promising I'll rescue. I wasn't expecting anyone. I almost didn't answer. But the doorbell went again, a long press, like the person on the other side believed if they pushed hard enough, I'd open not just the door, but my whole life. I opened it, and there was Jenna. Her mascara had given up hours ago. It left shiny tracks down to her jaw. She was hugging this oversized pink suitcase with a sticker that said, "Good Vibes," in chipped holographic letters. Her hair was in the same lopsided bun she used to wear in our sophomore year art history class, the one I used to tease her about, how it always looked like a messy croissant. Seeing it now felt like a memory and a warning. Can I crash here? Just tonight?" she asked, voice small, winded. "Please." I stepped aside without thinking. We've known each other since we were 18. She was the chaotic comet to my calendar app. I'm the person who brings extra pens to meetings. She's the person who forgets her shoes at house parties and leaves wearing someone else's. We haven't been as close the last couple years. Different jobs, different schedules. Her relationship swallowed whole by this guy, Aaron, who posted a lot about fixed gear bikes and hustle mindset quotes. But when she looked at me with that urgent, wet-eyed face, all I could remember was the girl who held my hair back during the flu and delivered Gatorade like it was a holy mission. "Of course," I said, already reaching to take the suitcase. "Are you okay?" She exhaled like air leaving a balloon and stumbled inside. The suitcase wheels thunked on the threshold. She kept glancing over her shoulder, like the hallway might bite. "I'm fine," she said, which is what people say when they are absolutely not fine. I had to get out of there." He started yelling, and then the neighbors banged the wall. And could I stay until morning? "I'll figure it out in the morning." I have a tiny place, 1 bedroom, 1 bath, a living room that's really just a couch bravely pretending to be a boundary between the kitchen and the door. Jenna's eyes darted everywhere like she was memorizing it. The thrifted gold mirror that always leans a little, the framed calendar with its neat little boxes, the basket of rolled throw blankets. She looked so out of place next to all my tidy piles and symmetrical mugs, like a storm cloud dropped into a waiting room. "Let me make you tea." My mouth was running ahead of my brain, doing polite autopilot. "Chamomile. No caffeine. I also have honey that doesn't taste like medicine if you want." "Chamomile is perfect," she said, trying for a smile and landing somewhere near, "Please don't ask me any hard questions." While the kettle did its loud, friendly hiss, I gave her the big gray blanket I reserve for very tired people and fluffed the throw pillow with the stitched fox that everyone thinks is a dog. She pushed her sneakers off with her toes and curled up, tiny and trembly. I could see goosebumps on her forearms. She had a bracelet made of tiny seashells I remembered from a trip we took to the coast in junior year. The one where we drove 4 hours to watch a sunrise we immediately slept through. "What happened?" I finally asked, placing the steaming mug in her hands. "If you want to talk about it." She blew on the tea for a long time, eyes puddling again, then shook her head like a horse refusing a bridle. "It's just Aaron being Aaron. He says I don't contribute enough, that I'm distracting." It got loud. I left. I could picture him, tall, confident in a way that always seemed a little bought on credit. He used to laugh too loudly at his own stories, then look around to make sure we'd noticed. Once, at a barbecue, I watched him break a beer bottle in the recycling bin and then lecture everyone about proper glass separation. I suspected "got loud" meant a lot, and none of it good. "Did he hurt you?" I asked carefully. She shook her head fast. "No, he wouldn't. It was just words." And the neighbor started filming, because that's what people do now, and I panicked. I threw some clothes in the suitcase and called a ride. "I'll go back and get the rest when he's at work." "Do you want me to come with?" "If you go back?" It tumbled out before I thought about it. I am great at volunteering future me for stressful errands. She blinked at me, grateful and a little dazed. "Maybe. If you can. I don't know. I feel so embarrassed. Like I'm that person now. The person who shows up on a friend's doorstep because she can't keep her life under control." "You showed up on my doorstep because I'm your friend," I said, and I meant it. "That's allowed." Her face did this quick twist, like the kindness hurt as much as the fight. She looked down into the tea as if it might deliver a fortune. The apartment settled around us. The kettle clicked off. The rain slowed to a softer murmur. A car hissed by on wet street. She took a sip and winced. "Too hot," she said apologetically, then added, "Thank you." She asked if she could shower. She smelled like old tears and the kind of apartment air that has a soundtrack of doors slamming. I put clean towels on the rack and folded my extra pajamas on the counter, silently glad I'd done laundry that day. While she showered, I wandered back to the living room, picked up the pink suitcase to move it out of the walkway, and nearly dislocated my shoulder. "Wow, you packed like you're moving to the moon," I called, trying to keep it light. Her voice came muffled from behind the door. "I just stuffed whatever was clean. And my art stuff. And essentials." I set the suitcase down behind the armchair and caught my reflection in the gold mirror. Eyes a little too wide, hair doing its own messy croissant imitation. This had happened so fast. 1 minute soup, the next minute sudden roommate. It hit me then, a tiny flutter under my ribs. I had not thought beyond tonight. I had not thought about work in the morning, about the fact that I have a meeting with a client who never smiles, about the way I hoard my space like a cat hoards sunny rectangles. In the bathroom, water pounded tile. Jenna hummed. It was the old song we used to play when we'd walk across campus late at night, arms looped, daring each other to tell the truth about who we liked. My heart did a little ache. Nostalgia is a dangerous host. It opens the door wide before you can decide if the guest should come in. She emerged in a cloud of steam, wearing my soft navy shorts and a thrifted camp shirt from a road trip I never took. She looked lighter, clean-faced, but her eyes were still glassy with whatever she had run from. "Couch okay?" I asked. "I can change the sheets in the guest." I stopped, because I don't have a guest room. It's a running joke among my co-workers that I apparently think I live in a catalog. I pointed at the couch, which, to its credit, is extremely nap-friendly. "Couch is heaven," she said, and began to fold herself into the gray blanket like an origami swan returning to paper. I hovered. "Do you need anything? Phone charger? Toothbrush? There's a new one under the sink." She bit her lip. "Actually, could I borrow that toothbrush and maybe, your charger? My phone is at like 2%, and I forgot mine." I fetched both. When I returned, she was scrolling with that frantic energy of someone running toward a digital fire. A message flashed across her lock screen before my brain could politely look away. "Did you get in? Make it at least a week. You need space." The name under it was Lena, one of her art friends I barely know, the one with the sleeve of florals and a tendency to start group chats at 2 a.m. Jenna angled the screen down and stuffed the toothbrush between her lips like that would muffle the brightness of the room suddenly. "You can stay tonight," I said, hearing how formal it sounded as the words left. "We'll talk in the morning." "Of course," she answered too quickly, foam at the corners of her mouth, eyes avoiding mine. I killed the living room lamp, leaving only the plant's purple glow and the light over the stove. I tucked a second blanket around her like we were still 21, and this was the kind of problem that evaporates with sleep. I stood in the doorway to my tiny bedroom a long time, listening to the rain starting up again, the dishwasher changing its mind about how loud it wanted to be, the soft tick of cooling pipes. I thought about the text. Make it at least a week. I told myself I was overthinking. People write dramatic things in group chats all the time. I told myself tomorrow I'd ask better questions. I told myself I was doing a good thing, and that good things don't usually come with fine print. Sometime after 1, the apartment drifted into that late-night hush that feels like the building is holding its breath. I hadn't meant to fall asleep, but did, hand still on my phone, an unanswered draft to my boss open. Might be a few minutes late. I woke to the tiniest sound, like plastic wheels sighing against tile. For a second I thought it was the dishwasher. Then I heard it again. A soft roll, a pause, a soft roll. I tiptoed into the hallway and saw, under the crack of the front door, a narrow slice of shadow shift. I glanced at Jenna. She was curled on the couch, perfectly still, her breathing slow, the gray blanket a neat hill. Her phone glowed face down on the coffee table, lighting a circle of wood like a small moon. Another sound, a metallic clink, a whispered apology from the other side of the door, a shoe scuff. I was suddenly very aware that I was in borrowed pajamas. I took 3 careful steps and peered through the peephole. The hallway light, with its annoying motion sensor that always takes a second to decide you exist, flicked brighter. A rideshare driver stood hunched, rain dripping from the bill of his cap, his face set in that neutral patience of someone 10 minutes past the tip window. He had a second pink suitcase, identical to the first, by his shin. Behind him, the elevator doors hung open like a mouth. He raised his hand to knock again. Before he could, my phone vibrated behind me on the coffee table, the buzz loud in the quiet room. On the screen, upside down, Jenna's lock screen notification stacked. "Where are you? Is the second bag there yet? Don't go back. Just stay." I froze with my eye to the door and my hand on the bolt, heart tripping hard enough to feel in my throat. The driver shifted his weight, glanced at the apartment number, then reached down to grab the suitcase handle. The wheels squeaked, moving closer. And from the couch behind me, Jenna's voice, too soft and too awake, said, "Don't open it yet. Please." I froze with my hand on the bolt, the kind of freeze where even your breath feels like it might give you away. My apartment had gone so quiet that I could hear the refrigerator hum over the rain outside. "Don't open it yet," Jenna whispered again. I turned, and she was no longer curled like a sleeping bundle. She was sitting upright on the couch, the blanket pulled at her waist, eyes shining in the dim purple plant light. Awake, alert, like she'd been awake this whole time, waiting for the knock. The knock didn't come. The driver outside shifted, glanced down at his phone, then back at the hallway. I could see him through the peephole, his hand tapping the suitcase handle like he was debating whether to leave it. "What's going on?" I hissed, keeping my voice low. "It's just my stuff," Jenna said quickly, standing up now, smoothing the borrowed shorts like she suddenly cared how she looked. I had to split it. He didn't let me take both bags at once. My friend called me a ride to grab the rest while he wasn't looking. That's all. Please don't freak out. Her explanation poured out too neatly, too rehearsed. I unlocked the bolt anyway, because the poor driver looked about ready to throw the bag down the hallway and speed off. The door creaked open, and damp air curled in. He gave me a polite, tired nod and slid the suitcase across the threshold. "Thanks," I muttered. He didn't ask questions. He just adjusted his hat, pressed the elevator button with his elbow, and disappeared. I shut the door, leaned my forehead against it for a second, and then turned back to her. "Jenna, you told me you just grabbed a few clothes," I said slowly. "That's a lot more than a few clothes." She pressed her lips together like she was sealing them shut. Then she smiled, this nervous, too bright smile that didn't reach her eyes. I panicked. You know me. I overpack for everything. Remember spring break senior year? I brought 3 pairs of sandals, and we ended up walking barefoot on the beach anyway. Spring break was different. You didn't haul half your apartment into mine at midnight. Her face fell at my tone, like I'd slapped her with words I hadn't meant to hit so hard. "I didn't have anywhere else to go," she whispered. And there it was. The sentence that shut down every argument before it could start. The guilt card. She'd pulled it already, less than 24 hours in. I sighed, rubbed my temples, and tried to think. The rain drummed louder, or maybe it just sounded louder because of the silence between us. "Fine," I said finally. "You can stay tonight. But we'll figure out a plan tomorrow. Okay?" She nodded quickly, too quickly. "Of course. Tomorrow." But when I dragged the new suitcase toward the corner by the armchair, the weight of it nearly yanked my shoulder out of its socket again. This wasn't just clothes. Whatever she had packed, it felt like bricks or secrets. The next morning, I woke to the smell of frying butter. For one confused, sleepy second, I thought maybe I'd dreamed it all. The late-night knock, the extra suitcase, the tight look in Jenna's eyes. But then I stumbled into the kitchen, and there she was, barefoot, hair still damp from a shower, flipping pancakes on my skillet like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Good morning," she said brightly, as though we were roommates instead of me being an emergency pit stop. "I found flour in your pantry. I didn't know you baked." "I don't," I muttered, blinking blearily at the stack growing on a plate. She laughed, too loud for the small space. "Well, you do now. Hope you like chocolate chips. I added those." It should have been sweet. It should have been comforting. But instead I felt this weird clench in my stomach. She'd opened my cabinets. She'd rummaged through my pantry. She'd used my pan without asking. And worst of all, she looked like she belonged here. Like she'd slipped herself seamlessly into my routine, into my space, into the little bubble of order I'd carved out for myself. You didn't have to. I started, but she cut me off with a grin. Sit. Eat. You've got work, right? Big day? I sat. I ate. The pancakes were actually good. But the whole time, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted overnight. That I'd gone from helping a friend in crisis to something else. On my commute, my phone buzzed with a text from her. Thank you again. Seriously. You saved me. And then another, less than a minute later. I'll stay out of your way. Promise. I didn't answer. At work, I tried to focus on spreadsheets and emails, but my brain kept replaying the sound of those suitcase wheels in the night. The whispered, don't open it yet. The weight of that second bag. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was catastrophizing like I always do when things go off script. But when I came home that evening, the apartment smelled like her perfume, something floral and sharp that clung to the air like static. Her shoes were by the door. Her makeup was scattered across my bathroom counter. And on the couch, she was sprawled with her laptop, painting her nails a bright, almost neon coral. Hey, she said cheerfully, like this was all perfectly normal. How was your day? My mouth went dry. I didn't know how to answer that question anymore. That night, as I lay awake listening to her soft snores from the couch, I realized something that made my chest tighten. She wasn't planning to leave tomorrow, and maybe not the day after. Maybe not anytime soon. I stared at the ceiling until my eyes blurred, the purple glow from the plant light flickering against the walls, and wondered what exactly I had just let into my life. The next morning, I woke earlier than usual, determined to have a serious talk before work. But when I stepped into the living room, Jenna wasn't on the couch. The blanket was folded neatly, the suitcase zipped shut in the corner. For a split second, I thought she'd left. Relief flooded me. Then I opened the bathroom door. Her toothbrush was in my holder. Her clothes hung on the back of the door. And on the sink, right next to my neatly arranged skincare, was a little sticky note in her handwriting that made my stomach drop. Ran to grab groceries. Thought I'd cook us dinner tonight. Jay? The sticky note sat there like it was mocking me. A little pink square, cheerful handwriting, a heart doodle at the end. Ran to grab groceries. Thought I'd cook us dinner tonight. Jay? It should have been sweet. Thoughtful, even. Most people would love to come home to someone cooking for them. But my chest tightened in that weird way where your body is telling you, this is not normal. Because here's the thing, she didn't ask. She didn't ask if she could use my kitchen. She didn't ask if she could shop with my fridge space, or my money if she decided to stock up, and then casually Venmo request me later. She didn't ask if I even wanted dinner with her. She just assumed. I stood there for a long time staring at that stupid note, toothbrushes standing shoulder to shoulder in the cup like we were a couple. My moisturizer shoved aside to make room for her cleanser. My towels already damp from her morning shower. When I finally left for work, I shoved the sticky note into the trash on my way out. The day at the office crawled. I couldn't focus on anything. Not the team meeting, not the pile of invoices, not even the free muffins someone left in the break room. All I kept picturing was coming home and finding my kitchen taken over. Pots bubbling, my knives dulled from the wrong cutting board, cabinets left open like little mouths. It sounds petty, I know, but my apartment is my sanctuary. It's my one little island where everything stays exactly how I left it. And Jenna, she was already making it hers. I considered sending her a text. Hey, don't worry about dinner. I'll grab something on my way home. But I didn't. Maybe part of me was curious what cooking us dinner looked like in her head. When I finally pushed through the door that evening, I got my answer. The apartment smelled like garlic and onions, heavy and sharp. Every burner on my stove was occupied, one pan sizzling with chicken, another bubbling with sauce, a pot of water boiling so violently it splattered the counter. My cutting board was buried under chopped vegetables, and the sink was piled with dishes, half-washed, streaks of soap clinging to the edges. And there was Jenna, hair tied back, sleeves rolled up, dancing barefoot to music blasting from her phone propped on the counter. She was using my wooden spoon as a microphone, singing off-key with zero shame. Hey, she shouted when she noticed me, waving the spoon like it was a welcome home banner. Perfect timing. Sit down, dinner's almost ready. I just stood there. My carefully arranged, quiet apartment was unrecognizable. It looked like a college house after Taco Tuesday. What are you making? I managed. Chicken Alfredo. With salad. And garlic bread. And wine. She gestured proudly to a bottle of red breathing on the counter, already uncorked. I don't even drink red wine. She must have seen something flicker on my face, because she frowned. What? Don't tell me you don't like Alfredo. Everyone likes Alfredo. It's not that, I said quickly. This is a lot. Her frown deepened, and I felt that familiar weight of guilt creep in again. She looked so earnest, standing there with sauce splattered on her borrowed shirt, steam curling around her face. Jenna, I said carefully, lowering my bag onto a chair. You didn't have to do all this. You didn't even ask if I was free tonight. I live here too now, she said softly, almost too softly. The words hit me like ice water. I blinked. What? I mean, temporarily. Obviously. But still, I wanted to do something nice. To say thank you. And just like that, the confrontation died in my throat. Because she wasn't wrong. Technically, she was staying here because I'd said yes. Technically, she had nowhere else. And technically, she was trying to be kind. So I sat. I ate. And I forced myself to smile as she poured me a glass of wine I didn't want and told me stories about her art collective and how they were planning some big installation in an abandoned warehouse. But inside, I felt the walls of my apartment shift another inch. The next morning, things got worse. I padded into the bathroom half asleep, toothbrush in hand, only to find Jenna already there, sitting cross-legged on the counter in my shirt, plucking her eyebrows with tweezers I didn't even know she'd found. The mirror was fogged from her shower, the floor damp where she'd clearly dripped water all the way to the rug. Oh hey, she said brightly mid-pluck. Sorry, you need the mirror? My mouth opened, but no sound came out. I just stared at her, perched there like she owned the place. I muttered something about grabbing coffee first and backed out. By the time I left for work, my apartment looked like she'd been living there for weeks. Makeup scattered across the sink. A pile of her clothes in the corner of my bedroom, where she'd apparently been borrowing space in my drawers without asking. That sticky note in the trash kept flashing in my brain. Thought I'd cook us dinner. Us. Not you. Us. And the worst part? When I got to work, I caught myself scrolling through apartment listings like I was the one who needed to move out. That night, I decided to set some boundaries. Hey, I said after dinner, trying to sound casual but firm. We need to talk about you staying here. Her fork froze halfway to her mouth. I just mean, we should figure out a timeline. For you two, find your own place. Her eyes shimmered instantly, filling so fast it was like I'd flipped a switch. You want me gone already? I sighed. That's not what I said. I just think it would be good to talk about next steps. I can help you look at places, or do you want me to be homeless? She snapped. The words sliced through the air like glass. Homeless. She'd said it louder than she needed to, like an accusation. That's not fair, I said, heat rising in my chest. You know that's not what I mean. But she was already pushing her plate away, standing, arms crossed. I can't believe you. After everything I'm going through, after Aaron, after I thought you were my best friend, you're already kicking me out? I'm not kicking you out, I said, though it sounded weak even to me. She shook her head, tears spilling now, and stormed into the bedroom, slamming the door so hard the wine glasses rattled in the cupboard. I sat alone at the table, staring at the half-eaten Alfredo, the sauce congealing, the smell of garlic suddenly suffocating. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. She had no intention of leaving. The next morning, I opened my closet to grab a work blouse, and half my hangers were empty. Dresses, shirts, even my favorite blazer were gone. Panic surged through me until I heard her humming in the bathroom. When she finally opened the door, steam rolling out, she was wearing one of my dresses. Oh, hope you don't mind, she said casually. I figure we can share now. She stepped out of the bathroom like a model doing a practiced pivot, my blue wrap dress tied at the waist, damp hair falling in waves down her back. If I hadn't felt the panic rising in my throat, I would have admitted the dress looked good on her. Too good, like it had been waiting in my closet for her instead of for me. Oh, hope you don't mind, she said, twirling. I figured we can share now. Something in my chest did a short, hard stutter. We can't, I said. It came out flatter than I meant, like a door closing without a handle. She blinked at me, confused, then pasted on a breezy smile. It's just clothes. It's not just clothes, I said, reaching past her into the closet. Empty hangers clinked like wind chimes in a storm. That blazer was for my presentation. Where is it? She pointed at the chair by my desk without turning her head. My blazer lay there with one sleeve halfway inside out, like it had been peeled off hurriedly. Next to it, my favorite white blouse was draped over the back, a smear of foundation at the collar. Jenna, I held up the blouse. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Her smile faltered, then sharpened. This is how you talk to me now? After I cooked last night? After everything? I'm grateful for dinner, I said, trying to keep my breathing even. I really am. But you can't take my things without asking. You can't just absorb my stuff into your stuff. She made a face at the word absorb like it tasted bad. You're making a big deal out of nothing. Maybe for you it's nothing, I said. For me, it's my boundary. We stared at each other for a beat, the quiet hum of the building filling the space. Somewhere upstairs a shower turned on. Somewhere down the hall, a dog barked once like a warning. I'll put it back, she said finally, tugging at the tie on the dress. I watched it loosen. My stomach unclenched an inch. She paused, hand resting at her waist. Can I borrow it just for today, though? I have to meet with this gallery owner, and my clothes are all casual. It was the way she softened her eyes when she asked, the way she tilted her head a little like a scene partner waiting for her cue. I hated that I recognized it, that this was the old rhythm of us, me bending, her leaning. Fine, I heard myself say. But please, ask next time. Of course, she said brightly, as if that had always been the plan, and floated back toward the bathroom in my dress, leaving the smell of my perfume in her wake. At work, 3 different people complimented me on my bold outfit before I remembered I was in my backup skirt and a cardigan I keep at my desk for sudden Arctic air conditioning days. I laughed it off and said I'd spilled coffee on the other thing. It felt like this small lie lodged in my throat and set up camp. By lunch, my phone pinged with a photo from Jenna, a mirror selfie at a coffee shop, her arm held high, my dress looking crisp and new. Manifesting good energy, wish me luck, she wrote. I typed good luck and deleted it, then put my phone face down on the table and tried to care about the salad in front of me. When I got home, she was on the couch with her laptop open, my dress tossed in a heap on the armrest. She looked up like a puppy hearing the treat bag. The meeting went so well, she said. The owner's assistant loved my portfolio. They said they'll be in touch about a group show maybe. That's great, I said sincerely. I meant it. When Jenna is shining, you can't help but want to bask a little. Can we talk for a minute? Her expression closed like blinds. About what? About the apartment, I said. I think we need some basic ground rules, just so we're both comfortable. She sank back into the couch with a theatrical sigh. Okay, lay them on me. I perched on the armchair, fingers clasped too tightly. First, ask before borrowing clothes. Second, please keep your things contained, like, not all over the bathroom. Third, no guests without checking with me first. And fourth, if you're going to be here more than a few days, we should talk about helping with utilities. Her mouth tightened on that last word like it had bones in it. Utilities, she repeated. I'm not asking for rent, I said quickly. But the bills, you know, water, electricity. If this is going to be, like, a couple of weeks, it would help. She stared at me like I'd suggested she pay me for air. I can't believe you're nickel-and-diming me when I'm in crisis. I felt my face get hot. I'm not. I just... She threw up a hand, then dropped it to her thigh, drumming her fingers. Fine. Utilities, she said, and the word came out like a pebble flung at a window. And fine, I'll ask before I borrow. And, yes, I'll keep my things contained. She drew little air quotes around things that made me feel ridiculous. Happy. Relieved, I said, though the truth was closer to exhausted. Thank you. She nodded, snapped her laptop shut, and vanished into the bathroom. 10 minutes later, I heard my dresser drawers sliding open and shut. We were already slipping. Over the next few days, the rules existed mostly in theory. She would ask to borrow something while already wearing it. She'd contain her things by stacking them in neat towers that slowly migrated across my surfaces like glacier drift. And the utility conversation turned into a text from her 3 days later. Money's super tight this week. I'll get you next time. Next time came with another reason and another. I learned to do a quick sweep of the bathroom every morning for my own items, like a scavenger hunt. My razor under the sink, my serum behind her hairspray, my towel damp even though I'd showered the night before. One evening, after a long day, I lifted my comforter to crawl into bed and found glitter. Glitter in the sheets, glitter on the pillowcase, glitter on my sleep shirt. It sparkled in the lamplight like stars or a warning flare. Sorry, Jenna called from the doorway, already laughing. I made cards for the zine thing. Your bed is just bigger. My back was hurting from the couch. Please don't, I said, too tired to turn over the mattress to shake it out. Use my bed. She pouted. You're mad at me. I'm tired, I said. And I'd like my bed to be for sleeping, not arts and crafts. She rolled her eyes and disappeared, and I lay there in the soft crunch of glitter, feeling like even the place where I closed my eyes had been colonized. Friday night, I came home to find 3 people I didn't know sitting on my rug with their shoes on. A woman with purple hair was balancing a plate of hummus on my coffee table without a coaster. A guy with a beanie and a shy smile was playing with my plant leaves like they were a stress toy. Jenna popped up from the floor in my sweatshirt and said, "Game night. You said no guests, but these are friends, not guests." "The word friend doesn't mean they don't count," I said, holding my bag like a shield. "Jenna, we talked about this." She made her face small and wounded. "It's just for a couple hours," she said. "We'll be quiet. Promise." Purple hair beamed at me. "We're making zines." Beanie Guy lifted a stapler like it was a trophy. Stapling revolution. I opened my mouth, then closed it. I didn't have it in me to be the villain in a room full of people who weren't paying rent. 2 hours, I said. And please, no glitter. They stayed 5. At midnight, after I finally shooed them out with more force than I like to use, I found a glue stick fused to my cutting board and my fox pillow migrated to the balcony. 2 of my spoons were missing. I didn't know where that kind of small loss goes. Maybe spoons become zine legends. Saturday morning, a new doormat appeared outside my door. It said this must be the place in loopy script. The old one, the plain, functional one I'd picked because it didn't say anything, leaned against the wall like it had been demoted. I stood there with the mail in my hands, staring at the mat like it might explain itself. "Isn't it cute?" Jenna called over my shoulder. She came up behind me, bare feet, mug of coffee in hand, wearing my cardigan. "Lena found it at the thrift for $2. It's a vibe." "It's a lease violation," I said before I could stop myself. She laughed, thinking I was joking. "You're funny." I wasn't joking. I'd looked at the lease the night before, the way people Google symptoms at 3 a.m. The guest policy was clear: no more than 14 consecutive nights or 21 nights total in a 12-month period without written approval. I'd read the clause 3 times and then stared at the wall. I could feel the shape of possible consequences forming, heavy and real. That afternoon, I cleaned quietly while she took an inspo walk that was, according to her posts, actually a picnic in the park with the purple-haired friend and 2 others, my cardigan making a cameo in the background. I wiped glitter from the baseboards. I found one of my missing spoons under the couch, sticky with something resembling glue. I took the trash out and stood at the dumpster longer than necessary, breathing the weird comfort of outside air and thinking, I have to fix this. I have to make a plan that isn't just hoping she will choose to leave. Sunday, she floated the idea of a tiny housewarming/thank you hang for the following weekend. She said it like a question, but her eyes were already shining with the answer. Absolutely not, I said, surprising us both with the firmness of my voice. No parties, no hangs, no tiny anythings. She looked like I'd kicked a puppy. It would just be some friends, she said. You don't have to do anything. I'll tidy in. No, I said. We can't. Please respect that. She pressed her lips into a thin line and nodded, but her eyes darted away, calculating. Later, scrolling on my phone in bed, I saw she'd posted a smiling selfie caption counting down to the coziest game night at mine. Bring snacks. My chest did that painful stutter again. At mine, I read out loud. The words echoed off my quiet walls like a stranger's voice. Monday evening, I came home to a paper the color of a bruise wedged under my door. I knew what it was before I touched it. My stomach dropped, my hands went cold, and the edges of my vision fuzzed like I was standing up too fast. I slid the paper out and read the bold header twice before the words made sense. Notice of lease violation, unauthorized occupancy. A paragraph about guest limits. A mention of multiple noise complaints on Friday. A request to contact the office within 48 hours to discuss adding an occupant or correcting the violation. The phrase, further action, in calm, terrifying print. I stood frozen in the hallway, key still in the lock, note in my hand, while down the hall someone's microwave beeped and a door clicked shut like punctuation. Inside, I could hear Jenna laughing at something on her phone, the sound of her feet padding across my floor, the outline of her life fitting snugly into mine. I swallowed, tasted tin, and pushed the door open. Hey, she chirped from the couch. Guess what? Lena found the cutest string lights for the balcony. Can we? What's that? She was already halfway up, reaching for the paper in my hand. I held it out of reach and heard my voice come from somewhere steady I didn't recognize. It's from management. She stopped, blinked. About what? I let the paper fall open between us, the bold header screaming the thing I hadn't wanted to say out loud. About you. Her smile flickered like a light bulb with a bad wire. What do you mean about me? I handed her the paper. She snatched it like it might burn her fingers, eyes darting over the text. I watched the color drain from her face. They can't do this, she muttered. It's just, what, some technicality? It's not like I actually live here. Yes, Jenna, you do. My voice cracked, sharp and exhausted. You've been here every day for weeks. You have your stuff in my closet. You're using my address to get packages. You're cooking dinners. You're posting about game nights at mine. What do you think management sees when neighbors start complaining? Her mouth opened and closed. I'm your guest. That's different. I almost laughed. It came out sounding closer to a choke. Guests don't get me in trouble with my landlord. She dropped the paper onto the coffee table like it was trash, but her eyes stayed locked on me, wide and wet. So what? You're saying you regret letting me stay? You're saying this is my fault? I sat down in the armchair because my legs felt unsteady. I'm saying I could lose my apartment over this. Do you understand? If management thinks I've moved someone in without telling them, they can terminate the lease. They don't care about our friendship. They care about the rules. Her face twisted, like she couldn't decide if she should cry or rage. I didn't ask to be in this position. Aaron blew up at me. I had nowhere to go, and you said yes. Now you're blaming me for needing help. I said yes for a night. Maybe two. Not a month. Not. My throat closed on the word forever, but the silence carried it anyway. She folded her arms, nails tapping against her sleeves. What do you want me to do? Go back to him. He's toxic. I can't. Then you need to find another option, I said, softer this time. A sublet. A roommate. Your family. She looked away so quickly I knew she was hiding something. You know my mom and I don't talk. You have cousins. Friends. Your art group. They don't have space. Then we'll figure something else out, I said, leaning forward, desperate to keep my voice level. But you can't stay here anymore. Not if it risks my home. I need to tell management this was a misunderstanding, that you're gone, or they'll start asking for documents, and, Jenna, I can't lose this place. I can't. Her eyes snapped back to mine, blazing now. So you're really choosing your lease over me? I swallowed. I'm choosing the roof over my head. And yes, if you force me to say it like that, then yes. She laughed, this sharp, hollow sound I'd never heard from her before. Wow, after everything I've given up for you. What have you given up? I asked, genuinely baffled. She threw her arms out like the evidence was everywhere. My relationship. My stuff. My comfort. You think I want to live out of a suitcase on your couch? You think this is fun for me? I think you've been making yourself very comfortable, I said, my own voice rising now. Taking over my space. My things. My life. For a moment, we just stared at each other. The tension buzzed in the air like static before a storm. Finally, she shoved past me and stormed into the bedroom, slamming the door. I sat in the armchair, the notice still glaring up from the table, and realized my hands were shaking. The next 2 days were hell. She barely spoke to me, except for clipped, passive-aggressive comments. She left dirty dishes in the sink longer than usual. She blasted music in the morning while I was getting ready for work. She used my coffee beans without replacing them. And when I asked her again about her plan to leave, she rolled her eyes and said, "Stop nagging. You're acting like my mom." That word again. Mom. She used it like a knife. By Thursday, I couldn't take it anymore. I emailed management, telling them my guest had left and it wouldn't be an issue again. It was a lie, but I told myself I'd make it true soon. That evening, I came home ready to finally put my foot down. But when I opened the door, the sight that greeted me almost made me drop my bag. 2 more suitcases. By the wall. Next to hers. Jenna, I said, my voice trembling. What is this? She popped up from the couch, looking nervous but defiant. It's just temporary. My friend Maya needed a place for a few days too. She broke up with her boyfriend. It's the same situation. I blinked at her, stunned. You brought someone else into my apartment? Without even asking? She's not here yet, Jenna said quickly, words tumbling over each other. But she will be later. And it's only for a few nights. I promise. My chest felt like it was on fire. Absolutely not. No. This is already too much. I can't. Jenna, I lied to management for you. I told them you left. And now you're trying to sneak in another person? She's my best friend, Jenna snapped. I couldn't say no. You wouldn't understand. Oh, I understand perfectly, I shot back. You're trying to turn my apartment into a crash pad for your entire friend group. Do you even hear yourself? Do you even care what this is doing to me? Her mouth opened, but for once, she didn't have a comeback. And for the first time since this whole nightmare began, I didn't back down. I dragged the extra suitcases to the door and shoved them into the hallway. Jenna stared at me like I'd betrayed her on a biblical level. You'll regret this, she said quietly, almost too quiet to hear. For the rest of the night, I couldn't shake those words. Not a threat, not a plea, a promise. I barely slept that night. Every creak of the building, every car horn from the street, every sigh from the couch made my eyes snap open. Her words replayed in my head on a loop. You'll regret this. By morning, I looked wrecked. Dark circles, heavy limbs, stomach twisted in knots. But I'd made up my mind. I couldn't keep tiptoeing. When I walked into the kitchen, Jenna was already there, sipping coffee from my favorite mug, scrolling her phone like nothing happened. She looked up, smiled faintly, and said, Morning. I didn't sit. We need to talk. Her eyes flicked up from the phone. We already did. No, not like this. I took a breath. You have until the weekend to figure something out. Saturday. That's 3 days. After that, I need my space back. For a second, she froze. Her fingers tightened on the mug, and her jaw clenched. Then she let out this short laugh, disbelieving. You're really serious about this? Yes, I said, heart pounding. I'm not your landlord. I'm not your parent. I can't be responsible for your whole life. I was glad to help when you needed it, but now it's gone too far. She put the mug down hard, coffee sloshing onto the counter. You're unbelievable. Do you even hear yourself? After everything I've been through, you're tossing me out like garbage. I swallowed, fighting the urge to soften, to apologize. You're my friend. That's why I'm being clear. I don't want to ruin our friendship, Jenna. But if you don't go by Saturday, I'll have no choice but to get management involved. Her face went pale at that. You wouldn't. I would, I said quietly. I have to. The silence between us stretched so long I thought she might scream, or throw something, or burst into tears. But instead, she just grabbed her phone, stood up, and muttered, Fine, if that's how you want it. She stormed back to the bedroom and slammed the door. For the next 2 days, the tension was unbearable. We barely spoke. She kept to the bedroom, coming out only to cook or shower, leaving messes like tiny bombs for me to trip over. I found hair dye stains in the sink, glitter in the rug, 2 empty wine bottles shoved under the couch. And then Friday night, I came home from work to find the living room full of people again. Not just 2 or 3 this time. At least 8. Music blaring, wine glasses clinking, laughter echoing off my walls. My furniture shoved aside to make space for them to sit cross-legged on the floor. Jenna stood in the middle of it all, radiant in my dress again, arms spread like she was hosting royalty. I froze in the doorway. What the hell is this? She turned, smile too sweet. A going-away hang. Since you're so eager to get rid of me, I thought I'd make the most of my last night here. My neighbors were going to hate me. Management was going to evict me. And Jenna, she was looking at me like this was her final performance, and I was the ungrateful audience. As I started to tell everyone to leave, Jenna stepped closer, lowering her voice so only I could hear. You think you can just erase me from your life? She whispered, eyes sharp. You don't know what I'll do when I have nothing left to lose. Her words cut through the noise of the party sharper than the music blasting from my speakers. You don't know what I'll do when I have nothing left to lose. I stared at her, the laughter of her friends ringing around us, the stench of cheap wine and garlic chips already staining my apartment. My throat went dry. Everyone out, I said, louder than I meant to. Heads turned. A guy with a man bun snorted. Someone else giggled nervously. Jenna tilted her head like a performer about to deliver her best line. Relax. It's just one night. No, I snapped. It's my apartment. And everyone needs to leave. Now, for a second, silence. Then murmurs started. People shifting uncomfortably, glancing at each other. They could feel it, the edge in my voice, the tension vibrating like a live wire. A girl with purple hair, the same one from last time, muttered, "Kinda awkward," and started gathering her things. The rest followed her lead, reluctantly, one by one. The beanie guy shot Jenna an apologetic look before slipping out the door. Finally, it was just me and Jenna standing in the wreckage of empty cups, crumbs, and glitter that clung to everything. She crossed her arms. "Congratulations. You ruined the vibe. Do you even hear yourself?" My voice cracked. "You invited a crowd into my apartment after I told you not to. You're trashing my home. And you're acting like I'm the problem?" Her face hardened. "Because you are. You don't get it. You don't understand how hard it is out there for me right now." "I do understand," I said, almost pleading. "I understand you're hurting. But Jenna, I can't be your safety net forever. It's destroying me." Her lip trembled, but instead of crying, she smirked. "You always were selfish. Always about control, about rules, about your little tidy life. I thought you were my friend. But you're just a landlord in disguise." That stung, more than I wanted it to. "Saturday," I said, voice shaking but firm. "You need to be out by Saturday. I mean it this time." She didn't answer. She just swept her arm across the table, knocking cups and crumbs to the floor, and stormed into the bedroom, slamming the door so hard the picture frame rattled on the wall. The next day was a nightmare of silence. I cleaned up the mess alone, the vacuum groaning as it swallowed glitter and chipped dust. Every sound from the bedroom, the squeak of her suitcase zipper, the stomp of her footsteps, made me tense. At one point, I heard her on the phone, voice low and sharp. I couldn't make out the words, just the rhythm of anger. By Friday night, I'd packed her things. Every borrowed blouse, every bottle of perfume, every towel she'd claimed. I folded them neatly into her suitcases and left them by the door. When she finally emerged, hair tangled, eyes bloodshot, she saw the bags and froze. "You really did it," she whispered. "Yes," I said softly. "I can't live like this anymore." For a second, I thought she might cry. Instead, she smiled, this chilling, humorless smile. "You'll regret this," she said again, voice low and steady. Then she dragged her suitcases into the hall, one wool squeaking with each turn. She didn't look back. Relief washed over me the second the door shut. I thought it was finally over. But the next morning, I woke up to a flood of messages from mutual friends. "How could you do that to her? She told us you threw her out with nowhere to go. You're heartless." And then I saw her post online. A picture of her sitting on the curb with her suitcases, captioned, "Kicked out by the person I trusted most." Some people show their true colors when you're at your lowest. The first thing I felt when I saw that post wasn't anger. It was shame. There she was, Jenna, on the curb outside my building, her suitcases stacked beside her, her face tilted just enough to catch the light, so her tears sparkled. She looked small, helpless. And the caption? It framed me like the villain in some cruel morality play. Kicked out by the person I trusted most. Some people show their true colors when you're at your lowest. The comments piled up fast. "You're better off without toxic people. Can't believe anyone would do that to you. DM me. You can crash here. People are heartless." And sprinkled between them, little daggers. Was this her place? Doesn't sound like a real friend. Wow. Imagine being so cold. I sat on my couch, phone heavy in my hand, the words blurring. My chest ached with a mix of guilt and fury. Because none of them knew the truth. None of them knew about the lease violation, the endless glitter, the strangers in my living room. None of them knew how close I'd come to losing my home because I couldn't say no. But now, in their eyes, I was the monster. By noon, the texts started coming. "Hey, is it true you kicked Jenna out with nowhere to go?" From Sarah, a friend we'd both known since college. "She's devastated. You should at least talk to her." From Tom, another mutual. And the one that broke me. "I never thought you'd be this cruel." I tried to defend myself, typing long explanations about context and boundaries and the lease. But the responses were short, dismissive. Nobody wanted the messy details. They wanted the simple story, Jenna the victim, me the villain. I closed my phone and threw it onto the couch, heart pounding. Was this what she'd meant when she said I'd regret it? Not threats, not revenge, just reputation death by 1,000 whispers. That evening, there was a knock at my door. I froze, every muscle in my body tightening. What if it was her? The knock came again, lighter this time. I opened the door an inch, and sure enough, there she was. Jenna. No suitcases this time, just a tote bag slung over her shoulder. Her eyes were red, but her mouth curled in a small, knowing smile. Hey, she said softly. Can we talk? I gripped the doorframe. You need to leave. I just want to explain, she said. Her voice was gentle, coaxing. I know you're upset. I know you think I ruined things. But you don't understand what you've done to me. I understand perfectly, I said, but my voice wavered. She tilted her head, studying me like she always used to in art class when sketching portraits. You look tired. You don't have to fight me anymore. Just let me in, we'll figure it out together. Like we used to. Something about her tone chilled me more than her anger ever had. Because she wasn't begging. She wasn't raging. She was calm, confident, like she knew she still had the upper hand. I slammed the door before she could step inside. My hands were shaking. Seconds later, my phone buzzed with a new post notification. Her words lit up the screen. It's one thing to throw me out. It's another to slam the door in my face when I try to make peace. Some people don't deserve friends. And the comments were already pouring in. The screen glared at me like it was alive. It's one thing to throw me out. It's another to slam the door in my face when I try to make peace. Some people don't deserve friends. The comments poured in faster than I could read them. Unbelievable. Some people just thrive on cruelty. She's jealous of you, that's all. Stay strong, queen. Each one hammered at me. I tossed my phone face down on the table, but the vibration of more notifications rattled through the wood like it was taunting me. I tried to breathe, tried to remind myself of reality. This was my apartment. I'd let her stay out of kindness. She'd taken advantage. That was the truth. But truth didn't matter online. Stories did. And Jenna was telling a better one than me. By the weekend, I felt like a pariah. Mutual friends stopped responding to my texts. One girl from work, someone I thought was neutral, asked me casually at lunch, so, did you really kick Jenna out on the street? I dropped my fork. What? No. She had options. But even as I explained, I saw her eyes glaze over. She'd already chosen her version of the story. It hit me then. Jenna wasn't just crashing on my couch anymore. She was crashing my reputation. Sunday morning, I decided I needed air. I bundled up, shoved headphones in, and headed for the park. But halfway down the block, I froze. There, sitting on the curb by the coffee shop, was Jenna. She wasn't alone. Two of our mutual friends sat with her, arms draped around her shoulders, handing her tissues and nodding sympathetically. She looked up just as I passed. Our eyes locked. Her expression was devastating, wide, wounded, trembling, like I'd just kicked her again right there in public. I looked away, heart racing, and kept walking. Behind me, I heard one of the friends murmur, "Wow." She didn't even stop. That night, I blocked Jenna on everything. Socials, phone, email. I couldn't keep letting her crawl into my life through a screen. But blocking her didn't stop the messages from other people. A text from Sarah. You could at least apologize. A DM from a stranger. How do you sleep at night? And worst of all, a voicemail from an unknown number. Jenna's voice, soft and broken. You won't be able to run from this forever. People know who you are now. They see you. I deleted it, but the sound stayed lodged in my skull. By Tuesday, I thought maybe the storm was passing. Fewer notifications, fewer whispers at work. Maybe she'd finally found another couch, another audience. But when I got home that evening, there was something on my door. A sheet of paper, handwritten, taped at eye level. It was my handwriting, except I hadn't written it. It said, "Tenant has unauthorized guests. Noise complaints ongoing. Building at risk. Apt 3B." Signed with my name. Someone had copied my style of writing. My signature. And every neighbor walking by would think I'd ratted myself out. I tore it down, my hands shaking. And then I saw her. Across the street. Jenna. Standing under the lamppost, watching me. She smiled. I stumbled back into my apartment, locked the door, and slid to the floor. My phone buzzed again. An unknown number, another voicemail. But this time, when I played it, it wasn't her voice. It was a recording of me. Me, from weeks ago, saying, "You can stay tonight. We'll talk in the morning." Hearing my own voice through the phone made my stomach turn. "You can stay tonight. We'll talk in the morning." She'd recorded me. Weeks ago. That simple kindness I'd offered turned into ammunition. I deleted the voicemail immediately, But the damage was done. If she had that one, what else did she have? How many moments had she captured without me realizing? The apartment felt smaller than ever. Every corner, every shadow, carried her fingerprints. I couldn't breathe. I called the building office first thing the next morning. It was a mistake, I told them, voice shaking. The guest is gone. She's not coming back. Please, just note it down. They gave me a clipped reminder about policy and hung up. I thought that would be the end of it. But the silence that followed wasn't relief. It was dread, because she hadn't really left. She lingered in whispers, in the looks from friends who didn't believe me, in the empty hangars where my clothes had been stretched and returned wrong, in the faint smell of her perfume still clinging to the couch. And sometimes, late at night, when the building settled and the radiator clicked, I'd swear I could hear it, the tiny squeak of suitcase wheels against the hallway floor. I checked the peephole, heart in my throat. Nothing. But the fear stuck. Maybe she'd come back. Maybe she was just waiting for me to slip. Or maybe she'd already taken everything she needed, my things, my friends, my reputation, and left me with the one thing she knew would last. Regret.